Ladies and gentlemen, comedy is back at OLLI. After the COVID hiatus and social distancing mandates eased, the performing stand-up comedy class of Randy Robbins returns. Let's welcome our long-suffering, let me emphasize that, suffering host, Randy Robbins.
I'm so glad, Chuck, that you stress suffering. Chuck was in my first class, the first time I taught this, back in 2012, I think. And he was the one who had me consider retiring. Now, I'm taking a chance because he still has a mic in his hand. But I'm going to tell you that we butted heads over a particular joke that he had, and I want to share it with you, and you guys decide what you think. He was talking about, his set was about traveling, having traveled with his lovely wife to Vietnam. And in their hotel, it was a mess. Geckos, I think, were crawling around and all sorts of other things were going. And Chuck's response was, "I was so Hanoied."
Let's hear it, folks. Come on. Yeah. Nah, 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 nah.
So in public, in front of everybody, I have to acknowledge, Chuck, I was wrong. 10 years in the making. But thanks for the intro. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out on a really rough night. I'm told that the weather has been unhelpful. What I want to tell you is that for the 8th time, or 6th, or however many, I taught this class, and lesson learned. Every time I do the class, a different number of people sign up. Once we had as many as 14. Once we had 7. And I was worried at 7 because this is a very hard class, very difficult. And in that class of 7, week after week after week, somebody else dropped out until we were left with 1. 1. I solved that problem by inviting back some alumni, people who had performed before, and showcased that particular woman, giving her time on stage. So, well, that's an interesting issue, is that behind us we have music playing. Why is that? Because I put it on. And why is it still on? Because I forgot to turn it off. So, I got to turn it off. You got it? Oh, Anna, ladies and gentlemen, Anna, the tech. You might have to lose my comedy club effect for the moment, but what do you think of that? The brick wall? Did it make you feel that you're in a comedy club? Glad to hear it. So what I learned is start a class only if you have a sufficient number of people, knowing that approximately half the people are going to drop. So you'll be happy to know we started with 30 and half dropped. So there are 15 people performing tonight. You want to give it up for them? Some of you are probably scared. Where's the exit? How do we get out? All the doors are locked from the outside. Who has an empty chairs near you? There are a couple of seats over here for the people who just came in, and in a couple of minutes, anyone else who comes in, follow my finger, folks. There's a place over there for you. Okay, so in that particular class where people dropped out, in the second week, or in the first week, a guy confronted me and said, "Why does comedy have to be funny?" And I actually told him. He dropped. In the second week, someone said, I asked the guy, "Why did you take the class?" Because that's a piece of information that's very helpful. And he said, "I recently moved to Asheville, and I was looking through the catalog, and I told my wife, this will probably be the most difficult class I could possibly take. I was flattered by that because it is difficult. It really is, to get up here and do this. So I looked at him and I said, "But you think you're funny, right?" He said, "Not really." He dropped. I'm telling you. And the OLLI community, you people, how many of you have been to one of these shows before? Call out. How many of you have not? Well, apologies in advance to the second group, and I don't know why you're here, first group. You've seen what we've got. But I put out a lot of advertising, and I got back a really interesting email from somebody who wrote, "Yes, we're coming, my wife and I." I was very flattered by that. And then I read the next line, "We like the price." How many of you, call out, have performed in this show before? Yeah, we have. Okay, so about 8 people are still alive, still here, still ready to go. So that's great. So understand, we have had a rollicking time. I wish that we were able to documentary the classes, because it was I don't know whether the talent is exactly as good, but we're like the writer's room for Sid Caesar. People calling out, people screaming, people cutting people off, people not listening to advice, that's stellar advice. And not just because I gave it. I was like the head writer, just channeling stuff. None of what you're going to hear tonight did I specifically write. The only thing that you're going to hear is my material will be from me. But the other people's material, I just tried to help hone their thing. These are people who have surmounted their fears. They're relatively inexperienced in this. So I hope you know that, getting started, that we have the music stand for people who would prefer to look at their notes. Nothing wrong with that. I have some notes of my own for myself. And of course, they're not here. I left them over there. So in the evaluation process, that's not technological. That's just forgetful. Who knows? So welcome. Thank you for coming. I hope you love our show. If not, you can't get out until it's over. So there you go. And I'm sure you'll like the price. But I want to bring to the stage the first performer. Are you ready for comedy? Glad to know. I asked them to write how they would like to be introduced, and this person didn't say. So I'm on my own. Here's a very funny lady. We have enjoyed her in the class. She's got, I don't think she's from New York, but she definitely has New York potential. So welcome to the stage, please, Janice Weinberger. Janice.
Yep.
Okay, you want
Is
this?
high enough? No.
High enough? You want it higher? Say when.
Okay. Hello. A sense of humor is good for your health. I know it helps me a lot. The last couple of years has really been a test. Between COVID and politics, it's hard to laugh at anything. I miss the laughter. I'd do practically anything for a good laugh. I grew up being very shy. If you pointed a camera at me, I'd burst out crying. I didn't want any attention. But I've changed. Have you seen my picture on the cover of Before and After magazine? I'm before. I'm even on Facebook. I have 7 friends. I've come a long way, baby. Enough of being good and shy. I want to throw caution to the wind. I want to have a new attitude. For instance, I met this guy and he told me, you show me yours and I'll show you mine. So I showed him a picture of my grandson. When I asked him what he had to show me, he said, take a good look, as he went out the door. I've always been what's called a late bloomer. In fact, my petals didn't open until my wedding night. Well, actually, it took a few more days to convince the groom to switch our honeymoon from Niagara Falls to Viagra Falls, with or without a raincoat. Who wants to catch a cold? Remember that old joke? If I told you you had a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? Well, I don't hear that anymore. Now when I ask Bigfoot, my husband, how do I look in these pants? He says, I didn't know spandex stretched that much. They say that the quickest way to a man's heart is through his stomach. If memory serves me, it's not his stomach, it's a little further south. If I ask Bigfoot, do you want to have sex or grab a bite at the deli? Guess what he'd say? The pig. I know my choice, corned beef on rye. The older I get, the more important food is in my life. I'm obsessed with it, and food loves me right back. It stays a part of me. As Bigfoot said, it's all behind you. I told him to shut up and worry about his own shortcomings. My friend Emily has twin boys. When I asked her, how old are they now? She said 22. Bigfoot asked, and how old's the other one? We've been happily married for 50 years. He in New York, me in North Carolina. He calls me when he's sick. I tell him to take 2 aspirins, call your mother in the morning. I'm tired of being called a senior citizen and get mixed in together with all those old people, you know? You know who I'm talking about, anyone older than me. Those old seniors, anyone older than me, I'm more of a middle-aged senior. Don't mix me up with those old ladies. When I think of an older senior, I think of my mother. She grew older and wider as the years went by, and I can see I'm becoming her, and I'm in no rush to get there. Most people celebrate Christmas with a family party, but not my family. The Jews do it different. We have Chinese food and then go to the multiplex. I'm on a strict diet. I only eat foods in column A. It's true, as I age, I think less about sex and more about food. Who needs sex when you could have a hot corned beef sandwich and a sour pickle? It satisfies and stays with you longer. Don't believe me? Take a look at these hips. They didn't grow overnight. I've been on more diets than I can count. No carbs, no fat, no sugar, no taste. My figure has gone from firm and sexy to soft and dumpy. I'm lucky I'm blessed with a sweet face and terrific personality. I'm modest, too. The other day, I went to my doctor for a checkup, and they weighed and measured me. I got good news and bad news. The good news is I didn't gain weight. The bad news is I'm 2 inches shorter. When I asked if my body looked good for my age, they had the nerve to tell me, put it this way, You don't have to be married to have stretch marks, but you have to be old to have wrinkles. As Betty White used to say, get at least 8 hours of beauty sleep. 9 if you're ugly. That's it, folks.
Janice Weinberger, everybody. Let's hear it for Janice. Good job. Thank you. So I left out in the warm-up, wanted to give you a little bit of wisdom about stand-up comedy. So just in case you don't know, a joke has 2 parts, a setup and a punchline. And the further apart they are from each other, the funnier the joke. For example, this is not my joke, but it's a prime example. My wife ran off with my best friend. Boy, do I miss him. Get that? It's not my joke, so I'm not offended that you didn't laugh. But that's a joke. Woody Allen did this in his act. He said, I want to give a fast word about oral contraception. I was involved, and I asked the woman I was with to go to bed with me. She said no. Oral contraception. That hurts. This guy was a comic genius, but you people don't care. I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince you that it's particularly funny. I was about to introduce the wrong person. So as I said, I've been given notes. Oh, and I didn't get notes from that guy either, the guy who's next. Okay, the guy who's coming up next is wearing a hat, probably because he's in the witness protection program. I want to introduce you and bring to the stage a very funny guy whose last name I just forgot. No, Tom McCarter. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom McCarter. And the mic for your hand or in?
No, I'll hold it.
Great.
All right. Hello, by the way. I'm Tom. I'm back 3 times. This is my 3rd time doing this. And it's not by popular demand, I can tell you that. But I am back because I love comedy, and I love the collaborative process that is involved in making this comedy show. And Randy does a terrific job facilitating it. He keeps us from killing each other, barely. And, of course, I'm back because I love the fact that it compels my daughter to come out to another of her father's school plays. By the way, I was supposed to memorize, but I have notes because I barely remembered to come tonight to the show. So I decided to move to Asheville 4 years ago. I was sitting on the beach reading Einstein's Dreams, the chapter that theorized that people age more slowly at higher altitudes. So I said to myself, here I am, I'm 75 years old, living in Sanibel at sea level. I've got to get my ass up to the mountains. So here I am, living on a mountain in a house on stilts, getting high every night. I'm going to live forever and not remember any of it. Now you know why I need notes. Well, my heart goes out to my friends in Sanibel. Ian was an awful storm. They are all refugees now. God knows where DeSantis bust them. And God will know, because DeSantis is very close to God, maybe even one and the same, which is a good reason for separation of church and state. And then came COVID, and everything got weird. First came the mask mandate. I grabbed an old Halloween mask. I doubted it stopped the virus, but it certainly helped with social distancing. Then came follow the science mantra. I felt I couldn't get out of bed without consulting Dr. Oz. And the ironies during this pandemic, Muslim men had to cover their face in public. A Zoom minion. Is that even kosher? Parking was free downtown, but you weren't allowed to leave the car. My dentist was more afraid of me than I was of her. And all those COVID deaths and no funerals allowed. Having my temperature taken every time I went inside was a pain in the ass. It would have been worse with my mother's old rectal thermometer. I actually enjoyed it much more than I should have. Folks thought sheltering in would help families reconnect, like they were back in the Father Knows days best. Domestic violence spiked to historic highs. Maybe they did. Like everyone, I got a pandemic dog, an overweight female pit bull. She barked every time I turned on Rachel Maddow. In fact, she got so agitated, every time she caught the scent of a liberal, I named her Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I took her to Reiki animals to see if they could make her more accepting and kind. The treatment worked for a while. When we walked, she hugged trees instead of peeing on them. But it didn't last, so we parted ways. And can you believe it? That bitch was just elected governor of the state of Arkansas. Well, at least we got diversity. So originally this bit included a kleptomatic ferret waiting to be treated at Reiki, but the feedback killed the ferret. So there's no ferret jokes for me tonight. I think I skipped something here. No, I don't know what happened. Okay. Let's see. All right, this is the bit I should have started with. I don't know what happened. So I originally came into this class, I wanted to do a bit on Peyronie's disease. You know, the curvature, abnormal curvature of the penis. You've seen the ads, for the penile, the unbend me penile erectile traction system. You know, the ads they showed a picture of a deformed carrot because you can't show a dick on television. So here I am doing this bit, and after it, I was going to do a bit about how perverts like Peyronie's disease because they can expose themselves around a corner and get away quick. Well, the feedback on this was people aren't going to know about Peyronie's disease. They're not going to know what the hell you're talking about. And the other is you shouldn't be talking about penises at OLLI, especially when your daughter's in the audience. I also, on the other bit, got pushback for unkindly referring to Sarah Huckabee Sanders as a pit bull. So I want to apologize to any pit bulls that might be in the audience. So I want to do a shout out to President Trump, ex-President Trump, former President Trump, for sending us the first stimulus checks. They really helped. Of course, he insisted on personally signing each check, which saved us money because the Magda folks didn't cash the checks, they framed them. So a couple of years ago, I took a class here called Breaking 100. I thought it was tips on aging. Instead, they handed me golf clubs. So this term, I wanted to take a class called Understanding Stupidity, but they wouldn't let me in. I think they were talking about me. So I'm considering teaching a class on global warming for the spring. Now, remember back in 1958 when nobody gave a crap about global warming? But the movie The Blob, that jelly-like thing that was absorbing everything it came in contact with and was growing larger and larger and threatening to devour Steve McQueen and every other living thing, and it couldn't be killed, but it could be immobilized by freezing cold. And so it was airlifted to the frozen tundra. And that keeps us safe for 70 years. And will continue to keep us safe as long as it stays cold. Well, the feedback on this, The Blob is no joke. Apparently you agree with that. But think about it. This feedback killed my ferret joke, killed my penis joke, but it didn't really kill the blob. So stop global warming or the blob is gonna get you, and me. So did you see where Marjorie Greene accused Pete Buttigieg of emasculating automobiles? My God, the far right is afraid of books. They banned Little Red Riding Hood. They're afraid of drag queens, and now they're afraid of gay cars. What are people going to think when you say you're going to the car dealer for a full lube job? All right, this is a millennial taking responsibility for his actions. Sam Bankman-Fried. ICYMI, SBF, FIX founder tweeted, OMG, TBHIFKD, up, TYIAMO. I think this means you ain't gonna get your money back. And the joke's on you. So this summer, I was in New York. I took a bus uptown. It was crowded, and I was strap hanging. An attractive woman was sitting in front of me. Our eyes met. She gave me a warm smile. My heart raced. She stood up. She was very tall. I looked up. She leaned down and whispered gently in my ear, "Your fly is unzipped." Well, that's when I knew, no, I'm getting old. So doing stand-up is fun, challenging, and very rewarding. Everyone should try it at least once. But it's time for me to sit down. No more stand-up for me. For my next gig, I think I'll audition for my 600-pound life, the reality TV show that records the daily lives of the morbidly obese. I know I have to grow into the job. But my alter ego is kind of heavy and certainly a little morbid, so I think I got a shot. All right. A word and a holiday wish for a couple of folks. Where am I here? Oh, yeah. All right. A couple of holiday wishes for President Biden, who has shown he can do his presidency thing very well in his sleep. And I wish a paint-by-number set for him to ease him into retirement. It worked for Bush. Don't knock it. And for ex-President Trump, maybe I should say triple ex-President Trump, whose broken syntax and circular reasoning always ends up in the same dark place. I wish him a custom-tailored suit in his favorite color, orange. And in the spirit of the holidays, I'll tell a joke that radiates forgiveness and empathy and gratitude. Hillel, a young boy living in Europe, lost his parents in the Holocaust. He escaped and made his way to America. Helped by cousins, he planted roots, got a good job with a supportive employer, and made many good friends, and he was very grateful. And then he won the lottery. Hillel wanted to share his good fortune with the people that helped him. He held a party and gave each person a substantial amount of money. A man dressed in a Nazi uniform arrived at the party, shocking everyone. Hillel greeted the man and gave him a check for $1 million. Hillel's friends were outraged. How can you give money to people that destroyed your family? Hillel said, you don't understand. They gave me the winning numbers. Oh. Well, I wish you all a very healthy and peaceful Happy New Year.
Tom McCarter, everybody. Tom McCarter. Are we on? Yeah. That was fearless. I want you to know that we voted in the class on that last joke. And I'd like to lie and say that we disagreed with him, but we thought we'd go for it. But there are rules of stand-up comedy, most of which he broke. No politics, no religion, and let's confront the language. Somebody in my class several years ago came up this place and he said, all right, let's address the F word once and for all. Facebook. Fucking Facebook. I wish you were here tonight to hear your laughter. So, enthusiastically, I'm supposed to say, here comes, are you there? Yes. Here comes the moderately amusing Dan Manning. What would you like tonight?
I'd like it in my hand, and thank you.
My pleasure.
I really look up to that man. I am standing up. Okay, I'm 5'6". I was supposed to be 6'5", but the stork was dyslexic. And I have a few notes. I have a few notes too. Hope I don't rely on them too much. You know, despite Randy's best efforts, I still have strong storytelling tendencies. But I can stand up and tell stories. So bear with me just a minute. Oh, I was born a poor black child. Wait a minute, that's Steve Martin's. Here it is. The strongly abridged, severely redacted, and moderately modified story of my life to date by Dan M. Manning. Manning. And before anybody asks that inevitable question, the answer is no. We're both Tennessee alumni, but I am not Peyton's younger brother. Actually, I'm older. Matter of fact, I'm at the age where many of my stories began long ago and far away. You see, I was born in a little frame house way out in the country a long time ago. And I was named Malcolm, my middle name, after Dr. Malcolm, the country doctor who came around and delivered me. And Dan is my first name's after the horse that he rode in on. But then a few years later, when my little sister was born, unlike me, she was so ugly that my mother wouldn't have her in the house. But yeah, she went and had her in a hospital. Well, anyway, there's a big gap here, but I finished grammar school, went to high school, and completed basic training all before my 18th birthday. And I was still a little short and skinny, redheaded, believe it or not, freckle-faced kid who there's a lot of things I hadn't yet experienced. Now, in basic training, my training instructor was a sophisticated staff sergeant, and he had 2 semi-sadistic assistants. Well, no, that's not really a fair assessment. They were full-fledged sadistic assholes. They enjoyed bullying people. They enjoyed driving people into the ground physically. You know, they enjoyed all aspects of their job. Now just imagine a bunch of young airmen standing there for a personal area inspection beside their open footlockers. And I don't mean that kind of personal area, but our sleeping and gear storage areas. The assholes would work their way through the barracks, tossing out insults, various things, penalties for picky problems, occasional verbal outbursts with drop and give me 30. And then they had eventually come to this skinny airman, really skinny airman, with, wonder where Manning got that body. Manning, if you stood sideways and stuck out your tongue, you'd look like a zipper. Anyway, going on. As a young man, I changed jobs just about as often as I changed my underwear. And one of the jobs I had was as a drug runner. I kept the roads hot and honed my driving skills on that job. The boss man, he covered a big area, and his thing was, if you can't come to us, we'll bring it to you. He even kept 2 cars going during the really busiest times. Well, actually what I was a delivery boy for this legitimate little pharmacy. I even became a pretty girl for a while. Well, it wasn't a gender identity thing. I still identified as a ginger young male. But you see, as a fresh-faced lieutenant with the Air National Guard, I attended the Air Force Air Weapons Controller School. And the school's call sign at that time was Pretty Girl. And would you believe it? Turns out that my personal call sign during that school, as I danced my way through that school, was Pretty Girl 22. Well, I'm sure you've noticed what a nice compact hunk of masculinity I've turned into. I mean, that's hard to hide. But one of my best qualities, it's not so obvious. It's my modesty. I really have a lot to be modest about. Think about it. Just look at me. Look at this body. Right now, as an octogenarian, I have the body, by one metric, I have the body of a person 18.5 years younger. Well, it's actually my wife's body, but she lets me hug it sometimes. Yeah, my wife. It's nice to reminisce, and I do remember what it was like way back when. She was such a nice little bundle, and I was such a horny little toad. And for some reason, just like magic, babies started coming. Well, when the first one was about due, she started having what we thought might be labor pains, but they'd come and go, and they varied in intensity by a lot. So I was a little concerned, and I called in to see, ask what we should do. And after I'd explained the situation, the nurse said, "Well, is this her first child?" And I said, "No, this is her husband." Well, sometime later, after our third blessed event, we figured out what was causing all that stuff. So we decided we should practice birth control. So we practiced, and we practiced. And you know what? My time is run out already. Randy, should I continue? More? I'm about to come into the good stuff. Anyway, we tried a lot of different things, but eventually, I had an opportunity to participate in the late trials of a birth control pill for men. The early trials had shown promise, but it didn't make it to the market because the mode of operation was found to be unsatisfactory. Stay with me on this now. See, it was a pill about so big, and you didn't swallow the pill, you put it in your shoe. And it made you limp. Now, a couple of people in this group have a side bet on that. Somebody said it would work, somebody said it wouldn't work. I'm going to let you decide. When I asked for it, yay or nay? Okay, tell me, did that work? Or did it flop? The flop sayer, most of that sound came from the flop sayer. Okay? Anyway, my time really is up. I have a lot more. I could talk to you for the rest of the evening. But I'll try not to. So, listen, I appreciate you. I appreciate the time with you, and maybe sometime later you'll get to hear the rest of my story.
Dan Manning, everybody. Come on down. Good job.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. Yeah. It's a shame you did not attend our classes, because on Tuesday, when we did a dress rehearsal, Mr. Manning went 16 minutes, and I suggested that we edit. So I spent half of yesterday giving him material, and he ignored all of it. So let's hear it again for Dan Manning. Did he leave? Okay. Made you limp. Of course, those are the people who laughed are the ones who enjoyed the Hanoi joke. So maybe I should give it up. Yeah, all right.
Thank you all.
There's Chuck getting another round of applause. Ready for more? Glad you are. So, Phil Lenowitz, who's coming up now, chose OLLI as the final stop of his farewell tour. He gets nervous on stage, so he likes to imagine the audience in their underwear. Really? Hope you dressed accordingly. His unusual sense of humor is sure to make you laugh. Folks, let's hear it for Phil Lenowitz. Careful.
It's true, I do get a little nervous in front of a group like this, and that technique about imagining your audience in their underwear, it helps a lot. So if anyone is wearing black lace underwear, if you'd raise your hand, I want to be accurate in my imagining. And Dan, I'm sorry you didn't finish your bit because I had a good piece for you. I was going to say that I know Dan is wearing his Burger King shorts. You know, Burger King, home of the Whopper. So for me, it's a good time to be old. Today's our wedding anniversary. My wife, thank you. My wife and I have been married for 28 years. Of all my marriages, this is the one that lasted the longest, so far. My favorite things to do in Asheville are visit the Biltmore Estate, ride the Lazoom bus, and go to the orthopedic walk-in clinic at Blue Ridge Bone and Joint. I'm overweight. My doctor says it might shorten my life, but by how much? My life expectancy is 13 3/4 more years. Will it kill me to lose 3/4 of a year? I'll lose plenty of weight after I'm dead. Young people are always trying to help us out. They put up a sign right here in the men's room, right above the sink, with instructions to wash my hands. Wet, lather, rinse, dry. I don't need this kind of instruction from college students. I decided maybe I should help them out. So I went into the student dorms. I went into the men's room. Well, I went into all the restrooms. And I put up a sign in each of the stalls. A 3-step process. Shit, wipe, flush. How hard can it be? Well, someone in the Reuter Center overheard me practicing this joke in our class. And a couple of days later, the sign in the men's room was down. But the signs in the student dorms, they're still up. I can't remember where I put things. I set up a system to put things back in the place where I got them. It worked for a while, but in spite of it, I lost something. It's my waist. I know where it used to be, but it's not there anymore. I looked low and lower. It's still not there. First, I thought I had lost it, but then I realized it was stolen by Papa John, Betty Crocker, and the Pillsbury Doughboy. As an older person, I have to get up several times at night to pee. Each time I get out of bed, my old bones sound like Rice Krispies. Sometimes I try to guess which bones and joints are causing that snap, crackle, and pop. So I asked Alexa, which bones and joints crackle when you get out of bed? She said it could be your knuckles, your knees, your back, your shoulder, your hips, your ankles. But in a guy your age, it's probably all of them. And I have magic shoes. On any sidewalk, in any field, in anybody's yard, my magic shoes can find a pile of dog crap and step in it. I'm not wearing them tonight. But I wasn't always old. After graduating from college as an English major, I got a job with the New York Grammar Police. They started me with diagramming sentences. I moved up quickly to apostrophes, commas, and semicolons. They wouldn't let me work on colons because I hadn't gone to medical school. I moved up to the enforcement division, which turned out to be my downfall. They fired me when they caught me with my participles dangling. Still funny. Then I had a job as a repo man, taking away things people had bought but couldn't pay for. And I was a specialist, not cars or boats, but unusual items. So my first assignment was to repo a chicken coop, with the chickens in it. I put it on the top of my Prius, and nobody in Madison County noticed as I drove back to Asheville. When I got home, the neighbors complained about the noise from the chickens. So I knew how to fix that, invited them all over for a barbecue. Just my luck, all my neighbors are vegan. Then I had a job with the Internal Revenue Service. Before I could get the job, I needed a security clearance. So I had my 11-year-old daughter hack into the IRS computer system and give me a top secret security clearance. While she was roaming around in their database, I suggested she authorize a huge tax refund for me. She did, but she kept half the money for herself. She bought a bunch of stuff. It's under a tarp in the garage, and I don't know what it is. But the IRS job didn't work out. They took another look at my security clearance, found out about the dangling participles, and I was let go. Unsuccessful in keeping a job, I turned to crime. I robbed a bank. I brought my girlfriend with me, and she videoed the entire robbery. Unfortunately, she posted it on Facebook. And my wife and the FBI saw it. I was arrested. The judge sentenced me to a year in prison. My wife stood up and said, "That's not long enough." I agreed. I needed to be away from her for longer. That's one of my ex-wives. After my father died, my mother remarried Beverly. She's in a graduated, multi-tiered, continuing care senior citizen retirement center in Florida. It's a nursing home. She graduated to the level of skilled nursing care. I couldn't make the graduation, but she did send me a picture of her flipping her tassel. She also sent me the new charges for being in the skilled nursing care. I took a look, suggested maybe she should get unskilled nursing care. But she called me the other day, Philip, I have a job at the graduated, multi-tiered, continuing care senior citizen retirement center. I'm in charge of the complaint department. Oh, so people come to you and you solve their problems? Don't be silly. I do all the complaining to management. It's a part-time job now, but I'm working to make it full-time. Well, that's wonderful. What kind of complaints do you have? It's not only my complaints, I complain for all the residents. They pay me for making their complaints, but sometimes they don't have money, so they pay me with prune juice and Depends. Nice chatting with you, Beverly. And marketing and technology and culture have gone crazy. My father's 94 years old. He's not much on technology. He tries to change the TV channels by pushing the garage door opener. He lives alone, so I got him a cell phone so we could stay in touch. It's a flip phone. I got it at an antique store and told him he could use it to call me in an emergency. I tried to call him last week and it went right to voicemail. I was concerned. So I took the next flight to West Palm Beach, drove to his house. He was fine. I said, Dad, what happened? He said, I turned the phone off because I didn't have an emergency. I came back to Asheville in time for my Medicare wellness exam. I like my doctor because he's honest with me. Maybe some of you know Dr. Mendacity. He wasn't in the office that day, so I was going to be examined by Dr. Singh. What I didn't know was that Dr. Singh was a woman, so it was a bit awkward for me when she told me to bend over and drop my drawers for the prostate exam. But to my delight, her slender fingers made it go much more smoothly than Dr. Mendacity's. I have arthritis in my hip, and my orthopedic doctor told me I need a joint replacement. All I had to do was get a hip, and he would install it. I looked in the yellow pages. I found Joints R Us, sounded like the place to go. I walked into the store. They didn't have any hips. They sold a different kind of joint. They offered me a couple of tokes. I took the samples and ran to 7-Eleven for a bag of munchies and a supersized Slurpee. Then I went to Costco. They had the hip I needed, but you had to buy a 4-pack. I went online to Amazon. They sell hips, both new and used. They had the hip I needed. It had low mileage and was used by a little old lady to walk to church on Sundays. I'm pretty sure she was a liberal because it was a left hip. With Amazon Prime, it arrived the next day. I checked the expiration date on the box. It said best if used before August 2035. That's perfect for my life expectancy. My men's group was having a political discussion, no surprise. It started to get ugly. Don was calling Joe all kinds of names: idiot, dipstick, dumbass. I decided to mediate. Don, in my experience, name calling does not facilitate the intelligent discussion of political issues. Don't you agree, you freaking moron? My technology group met to talk about protecting our computers with antivirus software. One of the people uses McAfee, one of them uses Kaspersky. I use Moderna. It blocks the viruses, but you have to download it twice. And every 6 months it needs an update. But it was too late. I already had a computer virus. I knew how to fix it. I sprayed Clorox into the computer, and it trumped the virus. But it killed the computer. I tried to revive it. I put Viagra into the hard drive, hoping it would get up and running. I waited 30 minutes as prescribed, but the hard drive didn't rise to the occasion. Now I have to buy a new computer. I headed to Best Buy walking with my new hip, but I ended up at a church. I decided to pray. I prayed for an audience that would laugh at my jokes. You answered my prayer, thank you.
Phil Lenowitz. Phil Lenowitz, everybody. So the next person didn't bother to give me an introduction sheet, and we know very little about her. So all I can say is she's from out of town. You'll find out more just like we will. So here's Kate Collins. Let's hear it for Kate.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. How's everyone doing tonight? Good, good, good. Well, good for you, because I'm exhausted. We just moved here from Los Angeles, empty nesters. We wanted to downsize, and so we moved. All of our crap here. Same crap, different time zone. But I'm not here to whine. No, wine is for after. Immediately after I fall on my face here. Did I mention I'm Irish? Yeah, we drink. It's not just a rumor. But before that, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. Or shall I say, thank you. Yes, thank you. I'm learning. Look at me. I can't believe how fast I picked up the lingo. Sometimes I just pick up language around me wherever I go. I'm 56. I'm like a sponge at this age. When I first arrived, I ordered tea, and the waitress said, "Sweet tea? Okay, honey." And I said, "Unsweetened, please, and no honey. Less calories." Well, she just stepped back, looked me up and down, and said, "Well, bless your heart." To which I instinctively responded, "Thank you." It just came out like that, all slow and twangy. Look at me blending in. I thought, what a nice lady, for blessing my heart and all. I'm gonna love the South, I thought. Later I found out what bless your heart really means. It means they think you're stupid. Or at the very least, peculiar. Kind of condescending, you know? Kind of an insult. Bless my heart. I'll bless her heart. Just kidding. I love it here. Everyone's so nice, and no one whines and complains like in Los Angeles. How can you complain when you live in this paradise? The only complaint I've heard so far has been about the traffic. Ha! Traffic. You don't know traffic. You don't. You have no idea. Someone told me not to live outside the city limits because no one would ever visit. We were looking 10 minutes away. It used to take me 10 minutes just to safely pull out of my driveway in LA. When your GPS says 5 miles, 50 minutes, you know you've made some poor life choices. In LA, we never say traffic jam. We just call it driving. I had to find something to do in my car with all that time, so I used to shave my legs. It helps being short, because I just pop that right leg up onto the dashboard, well within my wingspan and my sharp razor, and I could steer with one hand, if I had to. And no one creeping up alongside me, giving me them judgmental looks. No, they were all doing their hair and applying makeup. Some of them even women. Or they'd be texting their Hollywood agents, or of course checking the traffic on their phones. Yeah, checking traffic while in traffic. It's kind of like being at a football game and checking the score on your phone. I never did figure out how to shave that left leg, though. Oh well. But here people take advantage of the open road because they can. They drive around fast, winding, narrow streets. My 94-year-old mother came down from Scranton. Is there anyone here from Scranton? Okay, didn't think so. To see my new home. She looked over a cliff and said, "Oh heavens, I hope no one drives drunk on these streets." I said, "No, Mom, that's what all the little party buses, trolleys, and pedal carts with beer taps on are for. What could possibly go wrong here?" And people drive fast on the highway here, too. They mind their manners, but they will cut you off if you drive like me. Pisses a lot of people off, but not me. In LA, if you get cut off, you're just happy you're moving and not shot. So you put down your razor, and off you go, for at least a few feet. So when that guy riding his bike next to you is making better time, it's sad. And it's sadder when the jogger beats you. Don't get me started on the elderly and their walkers. Those tennis balls really do make a difference. Another difference here is the yards. In LA, every yard has to be perfectly manicured. Here, I can't believe the shit I see in yards. Cars parked in actual yards. Multiple cars right on the grass. What is it, another NASCAR day here? And everyone here has a dog. Yep, you see dogs waited to be seated at upscale restaurants. And they know the maitre d's. And they stroll right through the airport with attitude. Headed to first class, no doubt. Yes, you must love dogs, almost as much as y'all love your Subarus. I think Subarus are required to live here. When we first got here, we played a game. You had to drink every time you saw a Subaru go by. We spent that week hungover. Speaking of hanging, what's with all the ceiling fans out here? You know, I'm short. I can't reach the little chains on those things, which means I can't turn on the light. I can't function after dark, and it gets dark really early here. And that's important because we have bears here, as it turns out. I'm terrified of running into a bear. People just tell me, just make yourself taller. As if I could make myself taller. And then they say, well, just make yourself larger. What am I supposed to do to appear any whiter, bend over and moon the damn thing. Make myself taller. It's like when I was a lawyer in LA and the bailiff would say, "All rise." And I'd be, "But I'm already standing. I have risen. Doesn't get any better." I'd be, "Your Honor, may I approach the bench?" And they'd say, "Sure. Get Miss Collins a step stool, please." Embarrassing. But being short is not all that bad. We had these things called sample sales in LA. High-end women's clothing outlets with really great deals. Completely a word-of-mouth chick thing. It was the only time women could actually keep a secret. Very competitive, but such a deal. Designer dresses for under $20. Shh. The women would line up early. They'd push and they shove. And I swear, no joke, they would take their clothes off right there to get things on faster. No men, but these women wouldn't care if there had been men. They would fight over the best stuff. "That top's mine." "No, it's not." "You can't pull off that color." "Well, you don't have the boobs for it." "But I do. It's mine." Ugh, those bitches. Me, I didn't have to worry about that field of battle. I could slip in, crawl under the racks, swipe all the short dresses, and check out in under 10 minutes if I had to. Then I had twin daughters, and in just a short amount of time, they would develop excellent fashion sense and very quick hands. I would enlist them to roll under those racks with me, like Navy SEALs. Who knew twins could come in so handy? One of them came to visit the other day. She's now a young working woman. Got her own job, her own place. She rolled into our driveway in her brand new Mazda SUV. Mazda, the nerve. She then proceeded to freeload off us for a week. She bought this is true, she bought a bunch of sage at one of those hippie stores downtown. I asked her what for, and she said she needed to burn off the evil spirits in our brand new house. She lit the thing on fire and pranced all around like a crazy lady, getting ashes all over my brand new carpet. I told her the only thing that's going to get rid of this house of evil spirits is you going back home in that Mazda. And I visited her place recently, and she demanded that I be sure to remove all my makeup before I slept on her brand new pillowcases. Her completely machine washable cases from Target. How different it is when they get a place of their own. I used to pull entire steak dinners out from under that teenager's bed in the old house. But the move here has been great. It's a slower pace. People are so nice and so inclusive. That's why they say, y'all. Some even say, all y'all. Very inclusive, very confusing. And it might be because y'all share so much in common. A beautiful climate, you ride on the Lazoom bus together, you can share a beer on every corner, so much fun. This town is basically adult summer camp. And the mess hall is rows and rows of breweries. Craft breweries, of course. Craft just means we can't afford to make a lot of beer, so we'll just overcharge you for what we can make. Oh, and we have a fancy label and a story behind every brand. Cue the flannel shirts, tasteful beards, and the man buns. And never trust a brewmaster who doesn't have a ton of tattoos. But I think this town is going to take a toll on my body. My liver is already like, it's not you, it's me. I talked to my doctor and he said, try a juice cleanse and see me in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, it was worse. My doctor said, what kind of juice cleanse have you been on? And I said, well, primarily grapes. But I am learning to eat healthy out here. The other day I was schooled on some basics, like I need to use only white lily flour in my biscuits. I was calling it lily white, but it turns out it's white lily flour, and you can't get that in LA. Throw in 2 fistfuls of Crisco, a ton of buttermilk, top it with any sugary substance you can find. Hang in there, liver. My heart and pancreas are forming a support group. You're all so vital to me. But while people here like sharing recipes, they're not so keen on sharing the road. and man, are these roads narrow. I gotta get used to that. But Subaru drivers have it down. They truck it. I come to a dead stop and pinch my eyes shut every time one heads my way on a skinny road. I know for a fact that I will die by Subaru. And their motto is, love, it's what makes a Subaru. It's true, that's their motto. I'll be painting it on my tombstone in Subaru blue. But I'm learning to keep up and enjoy the fast pace, at least on the road out here. So I'm moving on now here in Asheville, in the fast lane. No more stuck in traffic in LA. But my legs could really use a shave. Especially that left one. Oh well, we tend to lean that way here anyway, huh? It's Asheville, it's chill. Who cares if I shave my legs? I have comfortable shoes, biscuits and beer, and no long-term plans for my liver. But before I conclude, I wanted to give a shout out to my husband of almost 33 years. I know, right? 33 years? You get less time for murder, right? But it's going to have to be a very loud shout out because I didn't invite him tonight. The man heckles me when I'm brushing my teeth. He didn't need comfortable seating for this. In front of all y'all. But you guys have been great, so thank you, and bless your heart.
Kate Collins, Kate Collins. Well, there you go, from LA, whole story on LA. I have to refute some of what she said and give you the New York experience because it's only fair. So my experience here in Asheville is that when I'm driving behind a tractor, I'm behind a tractor. In New York, we would cut people off to go places we didn't even want to go. Seriously, take this wedding. It was a long ride, and I had to go. I couldn't stand the bride, but I had to go. It was my wedding, so I had to go. I knew things were not right when the rabbi put the glass on the floor. He said, "Let's watch Randy put his foot down for the last time." Sadly, it was true. My wife, bless her heart, but in a different context. She's great, very generous, give you the shirt off her back, which she did on our first date, I have to say. But she's an alpha woman, and I don't do well with alpha. It just doesn't go. So if I may mansplain, ladies, don't read to your husbands from women's magazines. Just saying. I'm watching football. She's reading Cosmo. I hear the universal sign of pay attention. I put down the clicker. I turned to her. She said, "It says here that men do not pay careful attention to genital hygiene." Now, what I thought was, what? But what I said was, what? She said, "Wash your balls." Now, we were married a long time, and I wanted to please her. So I said, "I'll wash them. I'll wax them. You have to give them back to me first." Thank you. If you like that, you'll love this. There's a law in New York called equitable distribution. I got one back in the divorce. Just saying. So I'll have more to say after the next comic, but I want to bring to the stage someone who was not in the class this term, but who has performed on this stage twice before, and I think is a funny, funny man. So let's just welcome my good friend, Jerry Warren. Jerry. You want the mic or slide?
Can you hear me? All right, because usually I drop this thing. My name is Jerry Warren. I was raised in Newark, New Jersey. Very tough neighborhood. I made it to 80 years old. That was my biggest accomplishment. Okay, the fun started when I started high school. My father, the know-it-all and give all kinds of advice, says, you're going to high school, you want to be the Don Juan at a high school? Yeah, huh? Develop a taste for ugly women. And he says, that's an old family secret. I said, does Mom know that? You know? And anyway, 3 years later, we're cleaning out the attic, right? We find his old high school yearbook. You know what his nickname was? The dog catcher. So then later on, I'm starting college. Advice again. Oh, he was really smart. He says, you're going to be out there sowing some wild oats. He said, always go with the woman that drinks alcohol and beer. I says, well, why? He says, it rots the insides. You're out there sowing wild oats, you stand a better chance at crop failure, if you know what I mean. I personally don't drink alcohol at all. I learned when I was 25 years old, every time I drank alcohol, I became a lover or a gladiator, and I wasn't good at either one of them. Years went by, got married, have 2 daughters. Linda, she was a little off. She always made a big deal out of everything, and then married him. And now, Diane was altogether different. Diane was very religious, goes to church every morning, really a religious person. She's living home, she's 28 years old. Then she comes in and says, she's crying. I said, what are you crying about? What's the matter? She says, I don't think I can marry Anthony. I says, why not? You're going with him for 5 years. He's a good man. She said, I just found out he doesn't believe in hell. So I'm looking at an old maid down the road, you know, so I thought for a minute and I says, wait a minute, think about it. Don't let that stop you from marrying him. After you're married, you and your mother working with him and teaching him, he'll believe in hell in no time at all. We moved, years later, we moved to North Carolina, out to Mars Hill. I'm driving down one day through Virginia, and I get pulled over by a trooper. He said, I've been chasing you at high speed for 5 miles. I said, high speed, I'm in the lane with everybody else. He says, son, don't tell me any stories, I heard them all. As a matter of fact, if you tell me a story I haven't heard, I'll let you go. I thought for a minute and I said, officer, you said you chased me for 5 miles high speed? He said, yes. I said, you won't believe this, but my wife ran off with a trooper 3 weeks ago. I thought you were bringing her back. I didn't get a ticket. We love Asheville. We love the university here. We take courses. My wife and I took a course, and it was a great course. This is a true story. The Gift of Life. It was, you're getting older. If you pass away, your partner is left with a lot of problems. Gather all your papers, your insurance and everything, and put them in one drawer, one place where the other partner can find it. Okay, so we did that. Then she puts a name on the drawer, the death drawer. I said, come on, you gotta do better than the death drawer. After she read my insurance policies with all the money she gets, she changed it to the hope chest. Oh boy. Okay. We, as you know, there's great restaurants here in Asheville. So we were going to this one particular restaurant. We got to know the manager. And we get there one day and there's a sign in the window. It says, help wanted, must have a clue. So I said, Charlie, after I got talking, I said, Charlie, you getting any action on that help wanted sign? He said, yeah, I had 2 applicants this morning. They each got 1 minute. 1 minute? He said, yeah. The first kid came in, he said, I don't have a clue, but I have a Honda. Is that good enough? And he said, the second guy was just as bad. The second guy came in and says, I know what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody that's smart and can do the work. And the guy says, yeah, that's right. He says, I'm your man. The kid said, I graduated 8th grade with honors, and I know jack shit personally. I said, what'd you say to him? I said, well, you tell Jack to give me a call, and you're hired. Some of the women out there saying, who's jack shit? And that's a horrible name. I grew up with a kid had a horrible name. His name, catch this one, Marion Lipschitz. He got older, he changed it to George. Well, in Mars Hill, we lived there for a while, but we more or less had to get out of Mars Hill. My wife had this one neighbor. She kept coming over, driving my wife crazy. My wife says, I got to get rid of this woman. No matter what I tell, she's back the next day. I said, I'll get rid of her. She said, how are you going to get rid of her? I'll get rid of her. So next time I was talking to the lady, I said, I hate North Carolina. Oh, I hate it. She says, well, why did you come here? I said, I wanted to go to Florida, but the Witness Protection Program says you come to North Carolina. We got rid of her, but we also got rid of all the other neighbors, too. In fact, the postman, he used to put his mail in a plastic bag and throw it in the driveway. He didn't even slow up. Okay, let's see, what else we got here? We went after a year or two in North Carolina, we went on a vacation, a romantic river cruise in France. So it's a pretty good, pretty nice ride on the river, big boat. My wife and I are out on the deck enjoying the moonlight and everything. And my wife says, I love you, I love you, I love you. I don't know what I could ever do with all these years without you. I said, hell, this may be a romantic cruise. I said, is that you talking or the wine talking? She said, that's me talking to the wine. She said. All right. A guy asked me the other day, I'm in the 80s. He says, how do you know you're getting old? When do you feel old? I said, there's 2 giveaways. When you're worried about lifting a leg to put on your underwear, about falling down, that's number 1. Number 2 is when you end your prayers with, Lord, help me make a good bowel movement tomorrow. Now, that was the end of my presentation. I do have a few more jokes, but I got to get Randy's permission to use it.
Ask the audience.
You want to hear more?
I say no.
You always have to ask Randy, because if you don't, you're going to have a flat tire when you leave. On the same, we're on a different, no, this was a different cruise. This was an ocean cruise around Alaska, I tell you what. And we get there, they always have a big show, so we get there at the last minute, you know. And the only seat was right by the bar, so we sit down. We didn't like it, but that was the only seat. There's a guy sitting at the bar. He goes to stand up, boom, he falls down. So me and a young guy sitting next to me, we go over and we help the guy up, sitting him on the chair. We go back, we sit down. 2 minutes later, the same guy stands up, he falls down. I say, well, how are we going to watch the show with this guy? So the young guy says to him, where's your cabin? He says, D2. The young guy says, I know where it is, let's get him back. So we drag this guy back to his cabin. We knock on the door, and his wife answers, we said, your husband's had a little too much to drink, and before he got hurt, we figured to bring him home. She says, Henry, every time he drinks, he thinks he can stand up. Where's his wheelchair? Another thing, I forgot this one. Another thing, we moved in Mars Hill, and the Southerners really took us in and helped us. They said, "Where's your dog?" We don't have a dog. You got to have a dog. You're in the South. So I went out and bought a German Shepherd puppy. Well, they saw this Yankee coming because they sold us the dumbest dog in all North Carolina. The dog would wet on the floor, and we had a new house with these low windows. And I take the dog, I put him out the window and say, "Go in the grass." That dog was so damn dumb. 6 months later, he came in the house, wet on the floor, and jumped out the window on his own. Okay, two more. One of the fellows was talking about sex as an elder. I was asked at my 80-some birthday, "How's sex at 80?" I said, "Are you kidding me? You can't get past the foreplay. What's the foreplay? Hey, wake up." Okay, that's it, folks.
Jerry Warren, everybody. I made a good decision asking him to come. Well done. So, what do I want to say? I want to say a few things. He said something about wheelchairs. So, there's a medical supply store, I haven't seen it in some years, in Black Mountain, that had the following sign: crutches, walkers, wheelchairs. We've got them. Hop on in. I bet they do good business. Say that. We were recently on an ill-fated trip to Japan. The ill fate was that some of us contracted COVID, and so we had to quarantine. It was a difficult situation, and that's not the joke. But before this happened, we're at lunch one day, the 16 people in our tour and our guide, and we're in a Japanese restaurant, and none of the servers speak any language that we understand, so we have no idea what we're eating. A woman said, I had to write it down, "It's fun to put something in your mouth that you don't know what it tastes like." It's funny, my partner didn't think that was funny at all. I'm sitting there texting myself the joke, but what are you going to do? I'd like to share with you a joke in progress, if I may. It happened today with the help of guys from my men's group. We have breakfast every other week, and at breakfast today I was complaining or fussing about the fact that I have memory issues. In fact, I'm getting tested tomorrow for some deficits, and we'll see what obtains from that. What I said was, the problem that I'm having is that I can't find passwords at will, can't get that going, and sometimes I get to a place where they ask me my previous security questions. So that means I've been on that website because they have my questions and they know my answers. But you only have 3 chances to get it right or you get locked out. You know what I'm talking about. So I went to this, it took me 4 hours to get to the website to remember what website my money was in. Okay, question 1, name your favorite movie. Okay, I know the answer. It's The Godfather. So I typed it. What do you mean, wrong? And then I remember, I had written Godfather. So put in Godfather, it goes beep. All right, I'm in, question 1. Question 2, name your favorite teacher. That was easy. I remember Mrs. Moses, my 7th grade English teacher. But the question was there a period at the end of Mrs. or not? Got it wrong. Out. 3rd question, I forgot. How about that? One of the guys suggested, wouldn't it be great if we were allowed to make up and answer our own security questions? What would be the big deal? So these guys, I love them, came up with several ideas. One of them, what's the first animal you harmed? Father's favorite mistress. I don't know, in 6 months, this is going to be a great joke, I have to tell you. I want to leave us with the following. Carl Gottlieb, who's a guy who was one of the writers of the movie Jaws, was quoted in a book I'm reading on comedy. He said, "Hard times make for good comedy." And my experience is that as the pandemic has eased, I expected that everybody, all of us, would be out there laughing and yucking it up. And I'm wrong. I've been wrong. And tonight, you have shown that you are out there ready for comedy because you were so supportive and warm to my class, a round for the class. But we've been struggling with cancel culture, all kinds of stuff that did not exist 10, 15, 20 years ago. I'm not suggesting that we support people who do really terrible things. I'm talking about cancel culture as relates to children's literature. So you know that they have stopped printing some of Dr. Seuss's books. Well, that's not all. Snow White. Disney is in trouble with Snow White because she lives with 7 dirty men. Sleeping Beauty, off the charts. Why? Because Prince Charming kissed Sleeping Beauty without permission. But the thing that really galls me, that I have to share, is by acclamation, how many of you are familiar with the Dick and Jane reader? Call it out. Well, the Dick and Jane reader is verboten. You know what this book was about. It was sight words and with characters, Dick, Jane, Sally, mother, father, Spot the dog. I want to read you 2 pages, and you'll know why, because of cancel culture, can't be done. Jane said, "I cannot find Dick." "Help me, Sally. Help me find Dick." Sally said, I don't know what you're laughing at, folks. This is very sad. So innocent. Sally said, "Father, we cannot find Dick, and we cannot play. Help us, Father. Help us find Dick." Next page. Father said, "Look, girls, look, look, look. Here is Dick. Here is Big Dick." Mother said, "No, girls, that is not Big Dick. Here is Leroy. Here is Big Dick. See Mother go down, 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 down. See Dick go up, 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 up." I can't believe you're mocking this. You'll never hear this again. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Please get home safely, and see you next time. Thank you.